you know, in terms of the organization growing. You know, and I started Crossland Warriors Institute for Cultural Exchange in 2013. It hasn't gone as far as I'd like it to go. You know, in terms of sustainability, you know, so, and a lot of the work most of the work has been in South Africa. So when I go there, you know, I get these wonderful projects happening. But then when I leave, there's nobody there that can hold the vision and keep it going. And then, of course, there's no money, you know, so you can't ask people to keep, you know, the programs going, and you can't pay them, you know, and, you know, jobs are scarce, you know, and people need work. And they want to do this work.
Exactly.
But then they end up having to drive Uber or, you know, work in a restaurant or factory and doing menial day work, you know, and work there isn't even sustainable. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I
still can't make a living.
I haven't met anybody that can say, "Oh, I've been on this job for 15 years," or "I've been on this job for 10 years." You know? Unless they're faculty at the university or something. But mainly the people in the township that, you know, I work on a very grassroots level. And so I'm constantly getting phone calls and emails saying, "When are you coming back? We really want to do the project again." And so on my last trip, Janet Alves, you know Janet? Valley Women's Martial Arts. She's a poet.
Right.
Yeah. She was the poet laureate of Northampton for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, Janet's a good friend of mine. And she and I went over and we created a theater project, a master class called The Labyrinth of Fear.
Wow.
How do we deal with our fear?
Wow.
You know, what are some things that we can do? And we were just interested to hear how other people deal with fear. And so we got a group of young adults who were interested in theater, but not necessarily theater artists. But we said, you know what? These kids are brilliant. Let's do a master class. And usually, when you say a master class, it's usually somebody that has experience, has been doing this, and they're going to take. But we said, no, let's experiment. And so we did this project, and it was a 5-week project, 5 days a week, 5 hours a week, 5 hours a day, and we got these young people. I mean, they were so thirsty to learn this work. And it was basically storytelling, them telling their stories around fear. And we did, you know, all these exercises. Janet is a martial artist, so she did a lot of Tai Chi with them and using Tai Chi as movement for the stage and as dance. And South Africans love to sing, so a lot of music was developed. In this, I haven't met one South African that doesn't have a good voice. Wow. It's like living in a musical, you know. Right? It's true. They love to sing, right? It's true. And so the kids created songs and sound, and they put together a brilliant performance piece, and they performed it for the community. So the whole community came out, all the go-go's, the grandmothers and the grandfathers and the little kids and the parents. Everybody from the community piled into that community center. And it was so beautiful to see this. And I was like, I want this to have sustainability. This should be a theater company for the communities where they, you know, tell the stories of their community, you know, at this center. And while we were there, I noticed that during the day after school, all the little people, the elementary school kids, would come into the center. But they would just wander around the building, and the center is beautiful. They would wander around the building, and then they get yelled at. "Oh, don't touch that. Go outside. You know, what are you kids doing in here? Go play, you know." And I'm like, this is a community center. There should be programs here. So, you know, the wheels started turning, you know. And I said, I'm going to create an after-school program. And I went to the director, and I said, if I created an after-school program, would you hire my company to be a resident company
Wow.
at Gugasebi? And he was like, oh my God, that sounds fabulous. So I gave him a proposal before I came back to the States, and it went nowhere. And then he left. So I talked to my mentor, who has an office in that building. And I said, I want to come back, and I want Crossing the Waters to be a resident organization in Gugasebi Cultural Center. Make it happen. And it took us 3 years, and it happened. Because you have to go to the powers that be, the city of Cape Town, right? And we finally convinced them that this should happen, that there's, if you're going to have these community centers, you're going to be over these centers, you have to have programs for the young people.
Absolutely.
Or it's a waste, this beautiful building. Sonji and I and Amai are going over to set up the programs. Amai will set up the dance program, and so she'll train a lot of the young women who are already teaching dance at the center once in a while, and they're self-taught dancers. And I says, wow, let me call Amai, bring her in, and she can train up these young women. And Amai will talk about, what her plan is. My partner in crime right here is our Director of Educational Initiatives, and she'll be
Fantastic.
putting the curriculum together and doing the training. So that when we leave, when we have to go, the programs is sustainable.
They continue.
So that's why we have to raise the money too, because we want to have enough money to get them started, and we leave money there so that they have some kind of a salary, some kind of compensation to for these facilitators. Then they have a job. So it's job creation. We've created some livelihood for these young, brilliant young people.
So as a friend of mine says, training the trainers.
Training the trainers. Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. So the board that we had, they were wonderful people, but it wasn't really a working board. And you need a good working board. A good working board is essential.
That's the word.
Essential.
Yeah, and I just keep thinking about where we are in this country of ours. If you can call it a country.
Well, it's turned into something
and then,
weird.
Sanjay and I had a lot of conversations about this, but this is so much even more intense than when we were speaking about ways for Sanjay to draw on her gifts. But, this idea of walking through your terror, the labyrinth of fear. People are walking around, parents of little kids. Everybody's walking around in fear. There's such a, this stuff is so powerful. If getting things, and I know you're thinking about getting some things happening here too in this country.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, which seems like a good way to get some funding for the work in South Africa. Maybe, possibly.
We've gone international now.
Yeah.
We're registered as a nonprofit
that's great.
here, and we're registered as a nonprofit in South Africa. We're going into year 3 as a nonprofit in South Africa, and we haven't done anything there.
There at all. Oh, okay.
Since we've had the nonprofit because of COVID. When I came back, and just before COVID, I said it's time to get established there. So that when we go back, they'll accept us better if they know that we are a registered South African. And then COVID hit, and I've had to cancel my trip 3 times.